I'm about to find out if I can turn my $800 machine into a $3,500 machine with nothing but AI. Today, I'm going to show you how you can level up your coffee game just by using AI. No special equipment or modifications needed, just AI and a coffee scale. We're going to tap into a really simple coffee science trick that baristas and coffee enthusiasts swear by to make the perfect cup. But here's the twist. I can't code. So no coding is going to be required for this, but we will be using ChatGPT. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to try it yourself at home, make better coffee, and never settle for that average coffee again. I've been working with AI tools for years, and I've also been a weird coffee person for just as long. So today, I'm combining my love for both to show you how you can use AI to make your morning coffee even better. I'm the weird coffee guy who weighs everything. The dose of the beans, the coffee weight, the milk weight, you name it. My freezer is actually packed with single dose coffee tubes. And when you come over, you get a menu to pick from on what coffees you want. I haven't actually made a video in a while, and to get this one right, I've made more than 85 cups of coffee. I went through a lot of coffee beans. I've even revised these AI prompts many times because some of those first cups were not good. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was like the AI had worked at the Green Mermaid. I've also visited my local coffee shop in order to get some expert tips on dialing in that perfect espresso, and I fed that into the automation to make sure that its prediction is spot on. But I didn't stop there. I've created a tool that you can use. The link is in the description to get free access, but by the end of this video, you'll know what makes the perfect coffee, how to use the tool, and how you can make the perfect cup of coffee at home using AI. This tool is going to be your companion every time you make coffee. It has all the knowledge about your coffee and every shot you've made. It's going to tell you what the grind should be. The more coffee you make, the better its prediction's going to be, reflecting the flavors that you like and you want in your coffee. And that's exactly what I've done. So now, I guess, I should find out. Can AI really outperform a $3,500 machine? Before we kick off, there is one major thing you really need to know, because if you don't understand this, it's going to be really tough for you to make great coffee. This isn't actually a how to make incredible coffee video, so this is still going to be really simplified, but we still do need this basic understanding of how coffee works to get the best out of it. So there are a few things that you do need to know. The most important thing is grind size and dose affect everything in coffee. They are really the main inputs, and the outputs are the weight and the time, which then relates to the flavor of your coffee. So in a really simplified version, if you grind your coffee too fine, the water will go through it really slowly, and you then get over-extracted coffee. It's super bitter, it's dry, it leaves your mouth with like this very thick, syrupy texture. It's a very weird feeling, and you'll know it when you have it. If you go too coarse the other direction, the water flows really fast, and that way you get weak, under-extracted coffee. It may be sharp, sour, maybe a bit salty in really bad cases, and the texture is really thin and watery. It's like drinking brown water, which sadly is still a thing in some coffee shops. What we really want is the perfect middle ground. We want the balance between both fast and slow, where all of the great attributes of each of those things come together into the perfect cup. To know what's right, you actually need a coffee recipe, which can often be found on the bag or online, but most people just ask the barista where they're buying their coffee from. Different beans have different recipes. The barista should, at the very least, give you some minimum information. The dose, so how much coffee do you need to use? The extraction weight, how much comes out? Time, like what's the time range? 28, 32 seconds, in that ballpark. And then maybe even a free coffee, because now you're a weird coffee person too. So what we now need the tool to do is to help us match that recipe as much as possible. And so that's exactly what I'm trying to do today. Can we recreate this high-end tech using AI, my $800 machine? And since I can't code, we've also got to figure that out as well. So here's what we need: a grinder, a coffee machine, a scale, and some beans. No hardware modifications here, so put that screwdriver away. But just a pro tip for making great coffee: if you want to make it much better at home, invest in a scale. A basic one will do wonders, bonus points if it's got a timer. I'll put a link to a couple of different options in the description. Here's the plan. We're going to adjust just one thing at a time, our grind size. And we're going to do that to try to hit that recipe. Everything else stays the same as much as possible. All we want to do is tweak the grind, tweak the grind, tweak the grind. Change one variable at a time, right? It's pretty basic. We're just trying to change the grind and see everything else that flows. So let's get into actually what we need to capture to make this happen. First, we need a way to store the recipe against the type of coffee bean that we've got. And this recipe is what we got from the barista or the coffee bag, because this is really where we're trying to get to. This is correct. Secondly, we'll need a way to record our coffee shots to see how far away from the coffee and the recipe we actually are. They're not going to give you the grind setting for your grinder because it is unique, not just to your type of grinder, the bean you're using, and your specific machine. So we've always got to tweak that. And then we also want to record the taste, if it's bitter, if it's sour, if it's acidic, if it's just right. So we need a system to be able to log all of our coffee into. And it's a lot to track, and we have to do that for every single coffee shot that we make. So we've got the bean and its recipe, the grind size and the setting, the dose in, the weight out, the time, the milk weight, the bean type, the flavor notes or comments, and the rating. And this is how the rating works. 5 means this is the best that that coffee can get. 4 means I think there's some room for improvement. 3 means it's fine, but we're not quite perfect here. 1 or 2, well, the technical term for that is brown water. So what we do is we take all of this data and we send it into OpenAI or ChatGPT. But if we only send 1 shot, it won't have enough context. It won't be able to make a recommendation based upon what's previously happened. So we actually need to send it a few recent ones before it starts to lock in. So we need to give it enough data to analyze and actually provide an informed suggestion. The better that informed suggestion is when everything else is consistent apart from the grind size. But you will see in reality, it's not that easy. But here's the important bit. And if you miss this, nothing else matters. We need to actually send this data not only into ChatGPT, we need to take its recommendation and put it back and tell us so next time we know what the grind size needs to be. Because otherwise we have not closed that loop. So how are we going to pull this all together? It sounds like a nice idea, but like I've said, I can't code. So what's the plan here? Well, luckily, I've spent the last 12 years building automation and no-code tools for businesses through my automation agency. I've helped over 300 companies and built thousands of automation, saving businesses hundreds of thousands of hours. Using this tool and my skill set, I think I can pull it together. So what are the tools that we can actually look at? Ideally, we want one all-inclusive tool. I don't want to be using multiple tools with multiple things. I just want one thing. Ideally, I can load it on my phone. I can do it while I'm making a coffee. There are lots of different ways. We could use Zapier, we could use Typeform, we could use Google Sheets. But today, we're actually going to use Airtable because it's all in one and it does the job for us. Airtable has 3 different areas that we're going to use. It's got the Airtable database, which holds all of those key attributes, those key data sets. And if you think about the tables, we'll have one for roasters. Each roaster will match to a bean because I like to know the roasters. And then a shot will assign to a bean. This makes it easy for us to be able to look at and track all of the data. We're then going to have the Airtable interface, which is a much easier way of looking at the data and interacting with this without having to dig into the database directly. So it'll basically make a nice little web app and we can open it up on our phone or on the computer, whatever you want. And then finally, Airtable automation. This handles sending the information to GPT and then taking the response and saving it back into the database. So then it'll show up on the interface. And that's how we pull it all together. We close that loop. So every time you make a shot of coffee, you're clicking on the coffee type, looking at it. You're like, yep, that's what I got to dial in. You create a new shot based upon that.
All right, so now let's have a look at how we've actually set this up in Airtable. So we actually have 3 different databases, roastery, bean, and shots. The roastery actually links to the bean, which then links to the shots. The key for the bean is the ID, and the shot ID is for the shot. Pretty straightforward. The roastery is just the way that has been set up so I can actually understand on a roastery database which ones I like the most. See variations between the different coffees from a specific roaster and understand like what roasters I have the most beans from. Obviously it's on at this point. On the bean database we have a few different views such as all fields and drink and freeze schedule that kind of show me a Gantt chart of the breakdown of when the ideal window is to drink or freeze. It's useful if you keep your beans fresh, but for me, as long as I freeze it in a certain date, it's fine. I can use it for a long time. So I have the gallery set up as my default because I want to see all the beans I have plus that color ID. It also kind of shows me how many I've got left in this view. If we zoom in on my favorite bean, the raspberry candy, then the pop-out you'll actually see shows all the attributes for each coffee. It shows the flavor profile, and then obviously what GPT has told us to do in the next shot we make. We also have an inventory count. As you can see, it's negative because I'm stupid and I wrote in the wrong inventory count at the start, but it also provides other details that we spoke about earlier, plus a bit more. We then see all of our shots and it's aligned to the bean. We then have other details as well, which in this case, Honor actually provides, but it also includes their recipe. So this is all the information that we're actually storing for the bean. Now let's look at the shot table. We've just got a grid view here, no fancy galleries or Gantt charts for this one, but you can see at the very bottom here, I've actually made 83 shots. Now, since I've recorded this video, I've obviously made more, but I did about 83 shots. So if we were to pull up the greatest shot of coffee I have ever made, you will see all of the information that we're picking up here. We've got the date, the time, which autofills. We've got the bean, my rating, what I gave it, the grind setting, the dose, extraction weight, time, milk, and the ground status, which for me is always frozen tubes, but could be a bag or even a frozen bag if that's how you do it. I've also got my equipment, which doesn't really change. But then in the comments, this is where I type in any flavors that come out or other things I want to remember. Like I lost focus and it ran way too long, but I still documented it. So you could actually set this up to select flavors from a list or be more granular and structured around the feedback that you're asking for. Just let me know in the comments if you think that a flavor wheel or you select the flavors would be useful here, but for now, it's fine. And then we come down to the AI rating. Now, this is just the rating on the shot. It doesn't give any context over other shots, it just looks at the current shot. The score it provides is just isolated. So all it's doing is comparing it technically to the recipe and then giving me a percentage. In this case, I got a score of 95 because it was actually the best shot I've ever made in my life. And I actually slightly over extracted it. So I did 42 grams when the recipe said between 38 and 41. It also said my time was 31 seconds where it recommended 30. So it didn't get 100% for those two factors. But as you might have seen, it actually has no context for the grind setting. So it can't really score that. And therefore this information is just for the shot. So it doesn't tell us what we've got to do next. And the whole thing of what we're building is about trying to find out what we do next and how we set our grind. So we don't want to use this database view every single time we have to enter in new details. So that's where the interfaces in Airtable comes in. I really want to be able to make it more customizable so you can see different things on the screen. And so that's where this interface is. So I just set it up to replicate that gallery view showing me the colors, but this is also far more mobile compatible. So when I run a shot shortly, you'll see that. Now you can click into a bean here and it shows all the information in a nicer format. It's got images of the bag, it's got the color, it's got the type, it's got the flavor, how many is left. And down the bottom, you'll actually also see the recipe on that right-hand side. But right in the middle, you see the suggestion for the next shot that AI actually came up with. So this is the smarts. And from this example, you can see what it's recommending for this bean is to change the grinder to 28, keep the dose the same, be more consistent with when you stop the machine for the extraction weight, keep an eye on the time, and stay consistent with the frozen tube. Okay, now this is the greatest part. This is actually really what we're building all comes together. It goes into the reasoning behind its recommendations. Unlike those other machines that just give you the number with no context, this one will actually tell you what the grind should be and give you the reason why. So in the grind setting at 29, it actually said, because I had a longer extraction time of 27 seconds, which is in the range, but extraction weight was too high. So adjusting the grind to 28, you can try to reduce the extraction weight while maintaining that extraction time. Boom. That's it. That's what a barista would tell you if you had them sitting next to you. They would be like, adjust this and this is how it'll be affected. That's the smarts. That's great. So we obviously need to test it, but how does this actually run in the background? So that's where we go to the automation. The Airtable automation. Luckily, Airtable has a built-in automation tool, so we don't need to go out to Zapier or any other tools. We can keep it all in-house to make it easier and also easier for you. There is an option here to use something external if you wanted, but it's fine in its current form. So step one, when a shot is created, we want to look up the bean it was associated to and pull the recipe and all the other information, including previous shots. Then This first part is doing that score of that specific shot. That was the 95% I got before. The prompt is in there and it references the information that's already been provided, but it's a pretty straightforward prompt, but this has got quite a lot of tweaking. I think there's more tweaking to go as well. Now the next step is really the magic. This is it. So this has been written so it should also work for you, but I want it to tell me how to get a 5 out of 5 coffee. Each attribute explain the reasoning. So these 2 steps are pretty basic, and all they're really doing is taking each of those responses and sending it into the shot database and into the bean database. That way, when we open up the interface, it actually tells us. Okay, so it's been a couple of days. I've run a few more shots through, but what I wanted to do is actually take you through the full workflow. But once again, this is not a video on how to make coffee. This is a video on how to use the app. So to start, I've gone in and I've selected the coffee that I'm making, which is the raspberry candy. I'll then set my grinder to be what it's recommended, which is 24.5. So I'm just going to change this now to 24.5. We've now got the grind set to the right setting and we'll just roll it. So we've got 20.6. I will now switch across from this menu. So we can see here we've got 20.6. We're going to try to get it between 38 and 41, 25 and 30. I will then come across to submit new shot. Oh, there was a button there. I should have just used that. I select my bean, frozen tube. I've got to do this twice. I'll have to look at that after. Grind setting was 24.5. Dose was 20.6. And then all of these details come after. So now I'll just make the shot and we'll see how it goes. So, moment of truth. First, what I would do is I will go in here and I'll finish typing in the details. So I cannot remember what they are, so I'm going to type it in later. But all we do is we fill in the time, how much milk we add, we give it a rating, and we write in what we're doing. From there, we're good to just hit submit, then it'll run it and then it'll add it in. So what's it taste like? Let's find out. Yes. Yes, 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 that's exactly what we wanted. We're getting the white chocolate, we're getting the berry. Oh my God, it worked. There you go, that's it. So it does take a couple of times to run through. You need more data in order to get it to zoom in and get to that exact right point, but it gets there. Once you get it locked in, from then on, you can basically know exactly that range that you're in. So it won't take as long if you're buying the same bean. All right, so now you've seen how AI, Airtable, and automation can completely change the way you actually dial in your coffee. But honestly, this is just the beginning. If you want to access the tool, follow the link in the description below and come and actually use it. Tell me what you think, because there's a bunch of new ways that we can improve this and actually make it better. And I'd love for you to use it and try it yourself. Also, stay tuned, because if you really want to see how far automation can go, not just in coffee, but other ways to make your life and business better, you'll definitely want to subscribe, as I have a lot of videos coming up from my last 12 years of building automations. I'm trying to share as much as I possibly can. So trust me, please come subscribe, watch any of the upcoming videos, because once you get the hang of these tools, you'll be automating everything, whether it's brewing coffee or running your own business.